I heard about it. Isn't it great? I heard you bought a new house. We want to live together too. From what I heard, it's a detached house with a vegetable garden and yard. My son, Tanner, and his family showed up out of nowhere, saying they had caught wind of the situation. You know, it's customary for parents to live with their oldest son, Tanner declared matter-of-factly. His wife Maria chimed in. We're moving here as well. If you refuse, don't expect us to take care of you when you're old, Tanner threatened, completely disregarding our feelings on the matter before leaving abruptly. The plan worked out perfectly, didn't it? My daughter, Michelle, laughed, but with a hint of sadness in her eyes. Yes, I can't wait for moving day, I replied, trying to stay positive despite the circumstances. On the day of the move, after the initial flurry of activity had settled, I turned on my phone to find numerous missed calls from Tanner. Mom, where are you now? What the hell is this? The place hasn't been renovated at all, he yelled, his voice filled with indignation. Oh, but I did have it thoroughly cleaned, you know. Michelle helped out too, and it was quite the task. From now on, you'll have to keep it tidy yourselves, I explained calmly. When Tanner and his family, who had so forcefully insisted on moving in together, finally arrived at their new residence, they were greeted by an unexpected sight. My name is Michaela Thompson, and I'm 62 years old. Currently, I live alone on my widow's pension. My husband Andrew, who was 3 years my senior, passed away from illness last year at the young age of 64. Due to Andrew's frequent job transfers, I decided to quit my own job upon getting married to follow him wherever he was assigned. We were blessed with our eldest son Tanner and daughter Michelle while on assignment, but after giving birth to Michelle, my health took a serious turn for the worse. I found myself unable to accompany Andrew to his next posting. The destination was overseas, you see. With no siblings and my parents long gone, I had no one to turn to for support. That's when I made the decision to move in with my in-laws. My father-in-law Gordon and mother-in-law Fiona were incredibly kind people who had treated me like their own daughter ever since I married into the family. Assured by their warmth, I accepted their offer to live together. However, no matter how lovely people may be, actually sharing a home can be quite different from what one imagines. Through my experience living with my in-laws, I would come to learn this lesson all too well. Gordon and Fiona doted on Tanner excessively. Tanner is the heir to the Thompson family name. Perhaps it was because his grandparents showered him with such praise, but his arrogant behavior gradually became more and more noticeable. I'm the successor of the Thompson family, so I'm in a different league than the rest of you, he would boast. When I first moved in with my in-laws, separated from Andrew, Tanner was only 5 years old, just a preschooler. Yet this child began belittling his friends and pushing his responsibilities onto others. After receiving a complaint from his preschool teacher, I decided to have a talk with him. Tanner, why would you say such things to your friends? I asked gently. Because I'm different from other people. I have to teach those who don't understand that, don't I? He retorted defiantly. His response left me utterly shocked. How on earth did you start thinking that way? Tanner, you're the same as your friends. If you keep saying things like that, they won't like you anymore. I tried to reason with him. I'm special, that's why. Grandpa and Grandma said so. They told me I'm smart and great, Tanner yelled before bursting into tears. He tore away from my grasp and ran off to Gordon and Fiona's room. I was left standing there, dumbfounded. Did my in-laws really say such things to Tanner? Sure, they doted on him a lot. Sometimes I thought they went overboard, but I brushed it off, thinking it was understandable for grandparents who were thrilled to be living with their grandson. However, I would soon learn that my perspective was far too lenient. Michaela, I heard you scolded Tanner quite harshly. Fiona confronted me one day. That afternoon, when I went to pick Tanner up from the school bus, the teacher asked to have a word with me. Apparently, Tanner had hit one of his classmates. While everyone was lining up and waiting for their turn to use the playground equipment, Tanner had cut in line. When a friend called him out on it, they got into an argument, and Tanner ended up hitting the other child. I listened to Tanner's side of the story and, confirming it was true, scolded him for his actions. But he threw a tantrum and hurled his preschool bag at me. That's when I grabbed his arm and reprimanded him more sternly. Tanner, all your preschool friends are equal. It's not okay for you to skip the line. And no matter what, you shouldn't hit your friends. Do you understand? I explained firmly. I'm special, so why do I have to line up like everyone else? He shouted, shaking off my hand, ran out of the room, crying. Just then, Gordon and Fiona entered with serious expressions on their faces and said something outrageous. We heard his side of the story. Grabbing a preschooler's arm so forcefully, doesn't that count as abuse? Fiona accused. I was taken aback by her words, but I figured she must have only listened to his one-sided explanation. With that in mind, I recounted everything that had transpired from the beginning. That's why I scolded Tanner and tried to make him understand. I may have held his arm firmly then, but I certainly wasn't abusing him. I clarified. Oh, so that's what happened. But maybe there's a part of it that couldn't be helped. Fiona backpedaled slightly. Yeah, it's understandable. Gordon chimed in. At first, I thought they were referring to me scolding Tanner too harshly, but their next words revealed that wasn't the case at all. He is truly bright and more remarkable than other children. It's only natural for him to think he deserves that kind of treatment. Fiona reasoned. Agreed. If anything, he should be given special privileges to that extent. Gordon added. My in-laws were actually condoning his attitude towards the other children. Realizing this sent a shiver of fear down my spine. I'm sorry, but I don't think that's good for him, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. If I didn't have a proper talk with them now, things could get out of hand in the future. I want him to have a little more empathy for others, I explained. But he is such a smart boy, isn't he? Fiona countered. That's right. He's only in preschool, but he can already read and do math. Gordon added. It was true. Tanner had started reading picture books on his own without being taught, and he would even read to older kids in the neighborhood. It was a mystery how he learned it all. He probably picked up the letters from TV and building blocks, but he also had an excellent memory and could remember things he heard instantly. That child is a genius, Fiona gushed. Indeed. As his parents, it's our duty to give him a special education from now on. Gordon agreed. They beamed with pride at his brilliance. I wrote a detailed letter to Andrew about the current situation. I wasn't confident I could explain it well enough with just our usual phone calls and messages, and writing calmly helped me sort out my own feelings. He replied with an apology and asked me to endure it somehow until he could come home for a visit. In response to his words, I patiently tried to reason with Tanner and convey to my in-laws what I wanted them to stop doing. But the more I spoke up, the more displeased they seemed. Michaela is too hard on Tanner, Fiona complained. That boy is truly exceptional. He takes after Andrew and is bound to become an amazing adult. Gordon chimed in. It was true that Andrew was considered an elite. I knew his frequent transfers were because of his potential. I had heard that in his company, it was common for overseas branch managers to be on the executive track at headquarters. And my in-laws started making more snide remarks to me about that too. If only Michaela could have kept up with him. Of all things, to have her health fail after giving birth. Fiona sighed. Indeed. If she hadn't had Michelle, he would be attending school abroad by now. Gordon added. They were even implying that Michelle's birth was a mistake. I could handle them saying things about me. I could ignore most of it and argue back if necessary. But I couldn't stand them talking about her, who had only just been born, in that way. Both Michelle and Tanner are my precious children. And it was Andrew who decided to go alone, so please don't say such things to the kids. I retorted, my voice a little sharper than intended. My in-laws seemed to take offense at my tone, and their attitudes became even more blatant. Tanner, why don't you come eat something delicious with Grandma? It looks like Mom can't play with you because she has to take care of Michelle. Fiona cooed. Mom's health got bad when she had Michelle. She can't give you all her attention like she did when it was just you, Tanner. Gordon added. They kept filling his head with these ideas and continued to spoil him with special treatment. With my in-laws constantly praising him and speaking ill of Michelle and me, Tanner's gaze grew colder towards me. I repeatedly asked my in-laws to stop and told them that I cared about Tanner just as much as Michelle, but he had already stopped accepting those words. Mom only needs Michelle, right? I'm the heir to the Thompson family and an important person, so why don't you cherish me more? He demanded. Influenced by his grandparents, Tanner had become thoroughly convinced that he was the Thompson family heir. But even as an heir, the Thompson family wasn't all that distinguished. Gordon was the third son to begin with 2 older brothers. The family's assets consisted of a house, some land, and a gravesite. Even the eldest son was an ordinary office worker, not the type to put pressure on the main family. I heard that while the eldest and second sons had graduated from university, Gordon had failed his entrance exams. His parents told him they couldn't afford to let him be a Ronin, so he got a job right out of high school. I sensed that he had a bit of an inferiority complex towards his brothers because of this. So, when the brilliant Andrew graduated from a top university and landed a job at a top-tier company, it seemed like Gordon had finally gotten his revenge on his brothers. I had heard stories like that. I had also graduated from a university considered prestigious, so I suppose that's why they had treated me well up until now. But now, I had become an enemy in the eyes of my in-laws and Tanner. I wanted to take Tanner and Michelle and leave if possible, but my recovery was slow, and I wasn't even in a state where I could freely take care of myself. With no other choice, I tried to avoid causing disputes as much as possible and simply prayed for my health to improve while waiting for Andrew to return. About a year later, Andrew finally came home for a short visit. It was for various procedures and health checkups. Andrew wasn't on vacation, so he had a lot to take care of. But in between his trips to the company, he came to understand the current situation well. Andrew's overseas assignment would continue for at least another 3 years. Fortunately, my health had stabilized over the year, and he proposed that we go as a family this time. It seemed that even in Andrew's eyes, my in-laws' words and actions towards Tanner were problematic. At first, both my in-laws and Tanner were against it, but he spoke to them about the importance of being exposed to foreign environments from a young age. And so, our family safely left my in-laws and set off overseas. The overseas posting lasted for 5 years, during which time Tanner seemed to have calmed down completely, and the overbearing behavior he had displayed at his grandparents' house was no longer seen. I think it was a good experience for us. When we returned to the States, Tanner was in 6th grade and Michelle in 1st grade. However, after our return, a situation arose where we had to live with my in-laws again. My in-laws' house was a rental, but the landlord demanded they vacate, forcing them to move out. Just as our return was decided, they managed to convince the landlord to wait until then. My in-laws had grown quite old, and they were worried about continuing to live on their own, so we decided to buy a house near Andrew's company headquarters and live together. From now on, even if there were transfers, they would likely be within the country, and in that case, Andrew would go alone. That was the conclusion we reached. I thought Tanner was no longer young like he was back then, so he wouldn't be influenced by his grandparents, and they wouldn't do such things anymore. But I was too naive. As expected, my in-laws treated Tanner special, and Tanner, as if remembering those days, accepted it as if it were only natural. We couldn't kick out my elderly in-laws, and both Andrew and I did everything we could, but Tanner had grown up to be exactly the kind of person his grandparents wanted. My in-laws passed away in quick succession before the children became adults, but the negative legacy they left behind was significant. As his grandparents had hoped, he attended top schools and companies, paving his way to becoming an elite. But as he grew older, his bad personality became even more prominent, and eventually, he began to speak ill of his own father, Andrew. There was only one reason. He had entered a better university and a better company than his dad. I was always told by Grandpa and Grandma that I was better than Dad. Mom only paid attention to Michelle and neglected me, so it's thanks to them that I am who I am today. Tanner reminisced about his grandparents and mocked us, his parents. And he treated his sister Michelle like she was a bug. You were spoiled by Mom growing up. In the future, you'll probably end up going to some bottom-tier university, having a shotgun wedding at some point, and barely scraping by living with some low-class guy, he sneered. He didn't lay a hand on her, but he repeatedly berated Michelle with these words. Andrew tried to subtly admonish Tanner, but now that Tanner believed he was superior to Andrew, there was no way he would listen. The atmosphere in the house was constantly hostile, and I sighed, wondering if family life was always meant to be this bleak. At this rate, it wouldn't be good for her either. I was thinking of encouraging him to move out when an unexpected turning point arrived. Tanner announced that he was getting married. His partner was a woman named Maria, 2 years younger than him. I heard that her father was a department head at a well-known trading company. At the time, Andrew was also a sales department head at a company of the same caliber. Tanner himself was satisfied, and indeed, in terms of social compatibility, she was a good match. Honestly, she was such a shoddy person that it was hard to believe she was the daughter of a respectable father. She was a pretty girl on the outside, but on the inside, she was a spoiled, selfish daughter through and through. She had never worked a day in her life, and of course, her grades in school weren't good either, from what I heard. She somehow managed to graduate from a prestigious girls' school thanks to donations and had apparently been playing at home all this time under the guise of helping with housework. Still, as long as she got along with Tanner and the focus wasn't on us, I decided to turn a blind eye. No matter what form a marriage takes, as long as both parties are satisfied, that's fine. If Tanner was content with that, there was no need for us to say anything. As long as it didn't affect us, Andrew, Michelle, and I all felt the same way. After returning to the US, we finally had a peaceful home life for the first time. The tranquility lasted for a while, and during that time, Michelle got married too. I went from living with Andrew, just the two of us, to being alone. Andrew had passed away. He was only 64. In this day and age, that was still too young to depart from this world. At his funeral, I came face to face with Tanner and his family, whom I had grown distant from, for the first time in a long while. They say a person's inner self is reflected in their outer appearance, and Tanner and Maria embodied that notion, their expressions turning nasty. Now Mom's all alone. She'll have no choice but to rely on us. Tanner sneered. That's right. She's getting on in years, and from here on out, she'll only grow weaker. I wonder what she plans to do all by herself. Maria added. But even if she comes to us for help now, well, these things are determined by the relationships built up until this point. We don't have that kind of bond, do we? Tanner brought up a past incident between us. Tanner, she just lost Dad. Can't you offer her some kinder words? Michelle interjected. Shut up! This has nothing to do with you. This is between Mom and us. Stay out of it! Tanner snapped. That's right. When we asked Michaela for help, she was so cold to us. You have no idea how much that hurt. Maria chimed in. I hate Grandma. Walter, Tanner's spitting image of a grandson, continued with a scowl. Despite barely ever meeting us, they must have fed him so many lies about us that he glared at us as if we were his enemies. The first thing Walter did when he saw Michelle's daughter Mary for the first time this morning was pull her hair and make her cry, saying, Your mom's stuck up, so you must be stuck up too. Perhaps remembering that incident, Michelle shot Walter a harsh look. What, you got a problem with Walter or something? Tanner bristled. The atmosphere grew even more hostile. I stopped Michelle. I knew that no matter what we said to Tanner and his family, it wouldn't get through to them. I didn't want to ruin Andrew's funeral by arguing any further. Michelle seemed to pick up on that from my expression and swallowed her words. Both Michelle and I had plenty we wanted to say. But for now, the important thing was to get through the funeral without incident. I wanted to send Andrew off in peace. As hoped, the funeral ended smoothly, and all the mourners went home. Except for Tanner and Maria. Maria's parents had taken Walter and left early, so what on earth were they still doing here? Now that we've got a moment, let's talk about the inheritance, he said. So that's what this was about. Anticipating as much, Michelle and the others had stayed behind as well. Mary had been taken home by Michelle's husband Kendrick's parents. They knew all about Tanner and his family and had agreed to do so. This time, there is no inheritance for you, I stated firmly. Don't screw with me. That can't be right, Tanner protested. No, it's true. Think hard, I insisted. When Tanner purchased his new home, Andrew had provided a considerable sum as a gift before his death. That's why there's nothing left from Andrew's estate to give to you. You're lying, Tanner exclaimed desperately, but it was a fact, so there was nothing he could do. Money received from parents for a home purchase is tax-exempt. It should have been properly declared on the tax return. Remember now? I asked. Tanner's face turned pale as he listened to my explanation. He had conveniently sealed away that memory. He must have been really counting on Andrew's inheritance. Mom, I'm renouncing my inheritance. Please use the money Dad left for your life from now on, Michelle said, ever the kind daughter. In contrast, Tanner's claims were truly pathetic. No, I've set aside a proper amount for Michelle to receive. Mary will need education funds in the future, and Andrew would scold me if I didn't make sure Michelle accepted it, I explained. But Mom, you're still young, and they say life lasts 100 years now. I don't think having more money can hurt, so I want you to do that, Michelle insisted. Then why don't you give us the portion she's supposed to receive? You're both saying you don't want the money, so wouldn't that tie things up nicely? Maria suggested shamelessly. Michelle and I were so shocked we were at a loss for words. I couldn't believe she could say something like that without any embarrassment. Even more surprisingly, Tanner chimed in. Yeah, let's do that. Come on, it's fine, right, Mom? Get out! How many times do I have to tell you, there's nothing for you? Leave before you make me any angrier, I shouted. Perhaps startled by my intensity, Tanner and Maria finally showed signs of retreating, but not before Tanner left me with these parting words. "Well, I'll give up on Dad's inheritance." "Well, only Dad's, that is." "What's that supposed to mean?" I demanded. "Shut up, it's got nothing to do with you." "See you later," he said dismissively. I was sure he was now after the inheritance I would leave behind. I needed to take action while I was still healthy and able. As I was contemplating my next move, an unexpected opportunity arose. Apparently, there were plans to redevelop the area where I currently lived. Ultimately, they wanted to build a large apartment complex, so a salesman from a major construction company came to talk to me about selling the house. The current house was a pre-owned home I had bought when I returned from overseas to live with my in-laws. It held memories of Andrew, but also many unpleasant ones. In this house, influenced by my in-laws' words, Tanner had become the person he was today. Of course, it wasn't entirely my in-laws' fault. I couldn't do anything about it either, so in a sense, I was just as guilty. Remembering that filled me with a complex, indescribable feeling. "Why don't you sell it and move to a place where you can live more comfortably, Mom?" Michelle suggested, giving me the push I needed. I decided to sell the house and simultaneously began to put a certain plan into motion. "I heard the news. Isn't that great? I hear you've already bought a new house. We want to live with you too. From what I've heard, it's a single-family home with a vegetable garden and a yard." Somehow, Tanner and his family had caught wind of it and came to me with those words. "I thought I told you before, there's nothing for Tanner." I reminded them. "That was Dad's inheritance, right? The money from selling the house is your asset, Mom. In other words, it's your future inheritance. I should have a right to that, shouldn't I?" Tanner said with a nasty grin. "Mom's inheritance? Tanner, are you that eager for her to be gone?" Michelle asked, outraged. Hey, don't get the wrong idea. I said future, didn't I? I don't remember saying today or tomorrow." Tanner backpedaled. "That's right, Michelle. Is your hearing going bad? We came to have this talk for Michaela's sake, so she can live a long and healthy life." Maria chimed in, a beautiful yet somehow vulgar smile on her face. "For her sake, so she can live a long and healthy life? What exactly are you talking about?" Michelle demanded. "It's simple. Maria and I will live with her," Tanner declared. "What did you say?" Michelle asked, her eyes wide with exaggerated surprise as she looked at Tanner and Maria. "Michaela is only going to get older from here on out. It would be more reassuring for her to live with us, don't you think?" Maria reasoned. Normally, an offer from one's children to live together would be appreciated. But coming from this couple, there was nothing to be happy about. "I'm sorry, but I'll have to decline," I said firmly. "Why?" Tanner asked, incredulous. "I heard you're about to be kicked out of the house you're living in now. It's the house you built with the gift from Andrew and help from Maria's father, right? How did it come to this?" I asked pointedly. I must have hit the nail on the head. Tanner clicked his tongue and turned his face away, looking displeased. "Shut up. What does it matter?" he grumbled. "That's right. We're going to be living with Michaela from now on, so we don't need to think about our current house anymore," Maria added. The couple was clearly trying to avoid discussing their current living situation. "Anyway, it's decided that parents live with their oldest son," Tanner declared. "We're moving here too," Maria chimed in. "If you refuse, we won't take care of you for the rest of your life," Tanner threatened. Completely ignoring my opinion, Tanner and his family left with those parting words. The plan worked out perfectly, didn't it? Michelle said with a laugh, but there was a hint of sadness in her voice. "Yes, I'm looking forward to moving day," I replied. This was the certain strategy one had been working on while selling the house. Tanner and his family had fallen for it nicely. Even after that, Tanner and his family contacted me numerous times, but I never gave them a clear answer and continued to evade the topic of living together. "I've told you, I have no intention of living with you," I repeated. "Are you sure you can say that?" "We'll seriously abandon you, Mom," Tanner warned. "If that's how it is, then so be it. In any case, we won't be living together." I stood my ground. No matter how many times I said it, he and his family persistently hounded me. I suppose it couldn't be helped. After all, he and his family had no money. I heard that their current house was mortgaged due to debt, and they couldn't even continue paying the interest. My estrangement from him and his family, and their subsequent downfall, began the year Michelle took her university entrance exams. "You're kidding, right? Michelle got into the same university as me? I can't believe it," Tanner scoffed. It seemed he couldn't stand the fact that his sister Michelle, whom he had always looked down upon, had been accepted into the same university as him. When she called to report the good news, he hung up as soon as he heard it. Forget a celebration, he didn't even offer a word of congratulations. Furthermore, when his grandson Walter was born, he never reciprocated the gift Michelle had sent separately from us. When I admonished him for those things, this was his response. "I bet you're thrilled that Michelle got into the same university as me. But she's just a woman, after all. She'll never catch up to me. You'd better remember that, because she'll learn it the hard way someday." Since then, we'd been estranged from him. Andrew and I had resigned ourselves to the situation, thinking it couldn't be helped. But then one day, out of the blue, Tanner called with this request. "I want you to cover the cost of our housekeeper. Maria's dad stopped paying for it, so our house is a mess. You've never done anything for us, so you can at least do that much, right?" According to Tanner, this is what happened. Maria's father's manager had fallen from power. Nothing happened to her father himself. He simply lost in the internal power struggle at the company. An opposing director became the new president, and Maria's father was relegated to a sinecure position. As a result, they no longer had the leeway to support Tanner and the others. Maria had no housekeeping skills to begin with, and the luxurious house they had built with Andrew's gift and her father's aid had always been cleaned by a housekeeper. Although Tanner was a high earner, his income wasn't enough to sustain such an extravagant lifestyle. So, he came to me seeking assistance. "Tanner, didn't you see me cleaning the house all this time? Maria doesn't have a job, and she's not ill. If you don't have money, you and your wife should clean up yourselves," I told him. "Maria was raised as a lady, unlike you. We can't make her do that. I didn't climb the corporate ladder just to do housework. Don't you get it? A parent should want to help their child in need," Tanner argued. If they were both working hard and still struggling to make ends meet, I would offer help. But that wasn't what Tanner was saying. They were continuing a lifestyle beyond their means and expected me to support it. I had no intention of doing so. "No matter what you say, I'm not going to help you. If you don't have money, live within your means. Everything else comes after that," I stated firmly. He cursed at me over the phone for a while, but I absolutely didn't give in. When Tanner realized I wouldn't budge, he ended the call with these words. "Fine, but in exchange, I'm never taking care of you in your old age. Don't come crying to me when the time comes." From then on, we were completely estranged, but it seemed they couldn't give up their lavish lifestyle and their debt only grew. Then Andrew passed away, and they came hoping to get their hands on the inheritance but were turned down. When they heard I was selling the house, I knew they would come crawling. Moving day arrived. "What, is that all of your luggage?" Tanner said, looking appalled. My belongings only filled one small truck. In contrast, Tanner and the others' luggage was lined up in several trucks, looking like a tour truck for some artist. In the end, he had forcefully pushed through the idea of living together. "I already gave up my house for her sake, so don't tell me you won't live with us now," Tanner insisted. "That's right. Tanner made this decision for Michaela's benefit, so you should show your sincerity too," Maria added. The couple had pressured me, half-threateningly, until I agreed. "You don't need to worry about me. I've decided to keep only what I need and let go of everything else," I explained. "That works out then. It means there's more room for our stuff," he said cheerfully as he got into his car. "Michaela, hurry up. We'll leave you behind," Maria called out. I resigned myself and got into Michelle's car. It was time to depart. The two cars eventually arrived at the new house. "It's older than I thought," Michelle remarked. It was an old house, over 50 years old. "Well, the inside is properly renovated, right?" I asked. "Yes, the inside has been cleaned up nicely," Michelle replied. "I see. Let's quickly move the luggage inside," Tanner said, directing the movers who had brought their belongings. Of course, he didn't even consider the truck carrying my luggage. He didn't even check if it had arrived. After seeing Tanner and the others start unloading, Kendrick quietly started the car. Amidst the voices of the movers and the sounds of shifting objects, they didn't seem to notice. We quietly left the place, heading straight for our real new home. A little while after leaving Tanner and the others, my cell phone started vibrating intensely. It was on silent mode, so it made no sound. "Looks like they've noticed," Michelle said. With so many incoming calls, the battery would run out at this rate. I turned off my cell phone. I'll deal with it after reaching our destination. After driving for a while, we arrived at our true destination. "All right, please take care of it," I said. The luggage was being carried one by one into the neatly arranged house. Actually, we had moved some things in advance a few times. To leave without Tanner and the others noticing, having too many vehicles would be troublesome. In the worst-case scenario, I considered abandoning the truck and fleeing quickly with Michelle and the others, so I only loaded things I could give up if necessary. I'm glad I thought to bring the TV and fridge, assuming we could replace them. It's better to avoid buying new ones if possible, even though money can solve it," I said. Michelle laughed cheerfully at my words. After settling the luggage, I turned on my cell phone. A call came through immediately. "Mom, where are you now? What the hell is this? There's no renovation at all," Tanner yelled. "Oh, it was cleaned nicely, wasn't it?" Michelle helped me, but it was a lot of work. "From now on, you'll have to clean it properly yourselves," I calmly replied. The place I guided Tanner and the others to was actually a fake new house. I came up with this plan to prevent them from following us to our real new home. "You don't have a place to live, right? So I'm giving you that house. It's a gift from my assets while I'm still alive," I said. "Huh? Don't screw with me," Tanner shouted. "I'm not screwing with you. That's the last thing I can give you, so take good care of it. Oh, and make sure to file your tax returns properly, or you'll be in trouble," I stated firmly. The house is much cheaper than the amount Andrew gave Tanner for purchasing a new home. After all, it was built right after the Pacific War and is barely livable. You lost your job and have no income now, right? That land is designated as farmland, so you could grow vegetables with Maria. You shouldn't have trouble feeding yourselves, I suggested. There's no way we can do that, Tanner protested. Why not? Everything we eat is grown by someone. There's no reason you can't do it too. Tanner insisted he was an elite and looked down on those who worked up a sweat or got dirty doing farm work. A little hardship and developing a sense of gratitude would do him good. Oh, and I figured you might have trouble getting by until the harvest, so I stocked the kitchen with rice, seasonings, canned and instant foods, things like ramen. Consider it my last act as your mom. Be grateful for it. I could hear Tanner saying something, but I silently hung up the phone. I'd need to keep in touch for a while longer. Once everything was settled, I'd cancel this cell phone. For the sake of my new life. No matter how much they complained, the Thompson family had no choice but to live in that new house. They'd lost their old home, unable to pay back their debt. And Tanner had lost his job too. His arrogance and condescension towards others had earned him repeated warnings during internal audits. But he never reflected on his behavior or tried to improve his attitude. In the end, he was demoted and he quit, declaring he'd go to a company that recognized his true value. Tanner was so convinced he was special, he seemed to think companies would be lining up to hire him. Reality wasn't so kind. No company would willingly take on someone who caused those kinds of problems. Desperate, he'd apparently gone to great lengths to try to sell that house, but it was a property he'd gotten for next to nothing due to lack of buyers in the first place. No matter what he did, he couldn't find a buyer. Giving up and continuing to live there was his only remaining choice. Now, it seems he's receiving the bare minimum of assistance from Maria's father and has started growing vegetables in the fields. If they work hard, they shouldn't have trouble feeding themselves. I heard Maria, who had never worked a day in her life, is even helping with the farm work, sweating under the sun. Of course, they have to do their own housekeeping too. Apparently, she has even taken a part-time job to make ends meet. Walter, who was the spitting image of Tanner, seems to have learned from seeing his parents' transformation. I heard he transferred schools and now gets along quietly with his friends without acting arrogant. That's the one thing that puts my mind at ease. I know it was a pretty harsh judgment, and I sometimes wonder if it was really the right thing to do. But I don't want Walter to end up like Tanner. He doesn't need to become an elite. It's enough if he grows up to be a kind, ordinary person. I believe that wish will come true. I actually moved to a quiet suburb in the neighboring state. I'm living there with Michelle and her family now. She encouraged me to sell the house and offered to let me live with them. We both have jobs we can do from home, so we can move anywhere. Why don't you come live with us, out of Tanner's reach? My granddaughter Mary has allergies, and they were thinking of moving somewhere with clean air. Michelle convinced me it was perfect timing, and I gratefully accepted. Since moving here, Mary has gotten much healthier, and I'm spending my days in peace. Like I told Tanner back then, I decided to keep only what I needed and let go of everything else. The biggest thing I cut out was Tanner and his family. If I had kept ties with them out of a sense of parent-child obligation or blood relation, I never would have found this tranquility. It's unfortunate things turned out this way, but I feel unburdened now and I'm looking forward. I can spend the rest of my life here with my daughter and her family in peace. Here are only 10 excellent employees. As everyone is being served a meal, there's no place set for me. It's clear to anyone that this was done on purpose. I had no idea she could be so immature. I'm completely dumbfounded. She's waiting for my reaction with a nasty grin on her face. Since I'm apparently not an employee, I'll be leaving, I said, turning my back to leave. She laughs crudely, confident in her victory. Don't ever show your face here again, she spits out. You're the one who won't be showing your face anymore, I retort, leaving those parting words as I exit the venue. My name is Olivia, and I'm 33 years old. I've been working at a food company for 15 years now. My current role is in accounting, handling various tasks from managing expenses, organizing receipts for supplies and reports, to overseeing project budgets. I'm what you'd call a dropout. I didn't go to college and instead started working at this company right after high school. My family's financial situation was tough, and we couldn't afford the luxury of higher education. My parents tried their best to send me to college, but I chose to start working instead. I wanted my parents, who had worked so hard to put me through high school, to have some relief as soon as possible. While I sometimes envied my friends who went on to college and experienced campus life, I found it interesting to gain various experiences as a working adult. At first, I made a lot of mistakes and often relied on my seniors, but whenever I failed, I made sure to thoroughly investigate the cause. When I succeeded, I looked for ways to further improve. Perhaps thanks to those efforts, I'm often entrusted with handling important company documents. I feel a sense of fulfillment in being useful to the company, and I find my work rewarding. That's when a certain piece of news came in. Did you hear? The section chief is retiring. Oh, really? Has the next chief been decided yet? I asked. Well, apparently they're going to have someone new join the company and take over. Emily, who started at the company the same year as me, shared. I was surprised. There were a few people I could think of who seemed likely to be promoted. But if they're appointing someone hired mid-career as the section chief, they must be quite exceptional. That's what I thought at the time. On the day the rumored new section chief was to join the company, the department members gathered for the morning assembly. A woman entered the room, her heels clicking loudly against the floor. Attention, everyone! Is everyone here? I'm Risa, your new section chief starting today. Let me make one thing clear, I don't need any incompetent people here. You better work hard so you don't get transferred, she declared in a high-pitched voice, puffing out her chest as she greeted the team. Well, if you could even call that a greeting, it was quite lacking in decorum. The employees around me were murmuring, and I couldn't seem to close my gaping mouth. She continued, unfazed by the reactions. And let me tell you, don't come to me with any troublesome matters. If you can't solve it yourself, it means you're incompetent, she asserted. Just as her shocking introduction suggested, Risa's tyrannical nature became increasingly apparent. It was during a particularly busy period, when everyone, including myself, was swamped with paperwork, client communications, and other tasks. Ugh, this is such a hassle. Olivia, take care of this for me. Isn't this something you're supposed to handle, Risa? I questioned. What's the big deal? It doesn't matter who does it, right? Can't you even handle something this simple? She said, thrusting a stack of documents at me. Despite her words, a quick glance at the contents revealed that these were not documents I should be processing. Some sections even required the section chief's signature. So, I handed the papers back to her. I still have my own work to do, and as the section chief, you should fulfill your responsibilities, I stated firmly. Excuse me? She exclaimed, clearly irritated by my response. She let out an exaggerated sigh and pointed at me accusingly. I heard you're a dropout, huh? No wonder you can't do your job properly. Didn't I say I don't need any incompetent people? She sneered. My educational background has nothing to do with this, I countered. Of course it does. People who drop out and get jobs are all bottom feeders who couldn't even get into college. They can't possibly measure up to someone like me, a college graduate, she boasted. Her words made me involuntarily frown. They felt like a complete disregard for all the hard work I had put in until now. Seeing my expression, Risa laughed. If you have time to talk back, hurry up and do it. Or I'll have you transferred, she threatened. I understand. But please make sure to review it properly later, I said, reluctantly taking Risa's portion of the work and returning to my desk. However, my confrontation with her became the catalyst for her to frequently pick on me. She particularly used the fact that I was a dropout as ammunition, boasting about her own educational background and income. Well, if it isn't the low-educated employee working hard again today. I bet a dropout like you can't even do basic calculations, right? Are you sure you can handle checking the documents? She taunted. I've done this task countless times before and have already double-checked everything, I replied calmly. So that means you can only handle routine tasks, doesn't it? We don't need employees who lack adaptability, Risa retorted condescendingly. Even when our superiors were present, Risa's tyrannical behavior went unchecked. They turned a blind eye to her actions. I grew suspicious of the situation. The thing was, Risa went to great lengths to avoid doing any work herself. At first, I thought she was just lazy, but she avoided work to the point where I questioned why she even had a job. The tasks she was responsible for were so simple that anyone could do them. Realizing that things couldn't continue like this, I decided to consult with Nick, the department head and Risa's superior. However, Nick's response was far from satisfactory. Risa is purposely delegating work to help you all grow. Don't be so selfish, he chided. Selfish? Who's being selfish here? She doesn't even do the tasks assigned to her and just lounges in the break room all day, I argued. Being a section chief is stressful, sandwiched between superiors and subordinates. Can't you be a little more understanding? Nick dismissed my concerns. No matter what I said to him, he only offered words in defense of Risa. Yet the current situation was dire, with even the bare minimum of work not getting done. I persistently appealed to Nick to do something about it, but his answer never changed. All I'm hearing from you is complaint after complaint about Risa. Is that why our department's efficiency is declining? He accused. That's what I'm saying, the cause is her. I tried to explain. I don't want to hear any more excuses like that. Pushing the blame onto others for your own shortcomings. Aren't you ashamed as a working adult? Nick berated me. Through this exchange, I became convinced that I couldn't expect anything from him. At the same time, my suspicions grew stronger towards Nick, who excessively defended Risa. There might be something going on here. I resolved to investigate the two of them. Then one day, Risa announced that she would be holding a dinner party for the department employees. Apparently, she found it ridiculous that a welcome party hadn't been held for her, an absurdly shameless reason to host one. The employees were bewildered, but upon hearing that the venue would be a famous, high-end steakhouse reserved exclusively for the occasion, they couldn't help but get excited. More people than usual were gathered around Risa. As for my own feelings, I was in no state to be happy about it. However, I decided to attend the dinner party to confirm something. When I arrived at the restaurant, the seats were already arranged. Each seat had a name card placed neatly on it, but something seemed off. There were 11 people in our department. Yet, there were only 10 seats prepared. Everyone took their designated seats according to their name cards. As a result, I was left standing there. Then, I heard Risa's loud laughter. Here are only seats for 10 excellent employees, she declared. Turning around, I saw Risa standing with her arms crossed, looking arrogant. It seemed she had intentionally left out a seat, not by mistake. I only invited the excellent employees to this dinner party. Someone like you, who keeps talking back to me without showing any respect, didn't make the cut, she sneered. I never realized she could be this immature. I was utterly dumbfounded. She was waiting for my reaction with a nasty grin on her face. Excuse me, but I believe I received a confirmation of attendance for this event as well. Moreover, if this is supposed to be a welcome party, isn't it normal for the entire department to participate? I questioned calmly. Oh, please, you think you're entitled to be here? Were you that desperate to eat the steak here? Well, I guess it's only natural for a poor person like you who could never afford it in their lifetime, Risa mocked. It seemed she wanted me to feel miserable. She was probably trying to make an example out of me by humiliating me like this. So, I kept my expression unchanged and said, since I'm apparently not an employee, I'll be leaving. I turned my back and started to walk away. Seeing this, Risa laughed vulgarly, confident in her victory. Don't ever show your face here again, she yelled. In response to her words, I sent her a cold gaze. You're the one who won't be showing your face anymore, I retorted. As I left, I signaled to Emily with my eyes and exited the venue. From then on, Risa's attitude became even more overbearing. She was now assigning even the simplest tasks to other employees. As a result, everyone's workload increased, and the department was bustling despite it not being a peak period. So, I headed towards the break room where Risa was lounging. There, I found Risa elegantly sipping tea. Well, if it isn't Miss Goody Two-Shoes coming to slack off? For someone who talks so high and mighty, you're not really one to judge others, are you? Risa taunted. I've properly finished my own work, so taking a break is a natural right, I replied calmly. Yeah. Having a dour woman like you around just makes my tea taste bitter. Risa scoffed, looking down at me with an air of superiority. I placed a stack of documents on the table. These are the documents that you need to review, Risa. The deadline is tomorrow morning, I informed her. Tomorrow morning? Why didn't you tell me earlier? She exclaimed. I've reminded you multiple times. Wasn't it you who refused to listen each time, Risa? By the way, these are important documents, so if you miss the deadline, you won't get off with just a scolding, I warned. Risa's hand trembled as she held her tea. She glared at me. In return, I looked down at her with cold eyes. In fact, these were the documents I had repeatedly asked her to review. However, I didn't fail to notice how they always remained untouched on her desk. These need to be submitted to the higher-ups, so please take care of them as soon as possible, I urged. This amount is impossible. You figure it out yourself, Risa demanded. I don't have the authority to do so. As the section chief, please handle it properly, I stated firmly. With that, I left the break room. I could hear her shouting something behind me, but I pretended not to hear. Of course, I didn't expect someone like her to comply so easily, so I was already considering my next move. I made my way to Emily's desk. How was the dinner party? Did it go well? I asked. Yes, it went smoothly. Is there anything else I can do? Emily responded. That's great. There's one more thing I need your help with, I said, making a request to her. As the workday came to an end, Risa tried to leave in a hurry. Are you finished, Risa? I questioned. You're so annoying. Of course I'm done. That much was a piece of cake, she snapped. I find it hard to believe that you could finish that amount of work in such a short time, I remarked skeptically. Risa's face turned bright red as she flew into a rage. What's your problem? Unlike you, I'm competent. They're just documents that need to be signed, right? She yelled before storming out of the office. She seemed completely unaware of the gravity of the situation. But the more foolish she was, the better it worked in my favor, so I finished my work and decided to head home. The next day, the office was in an uproar. The company's top executives had gathered around Nick's desk. In the center, Nick's face was pale as he bowed his head. As I approached, I heard Christopher, the senior managing director, speaking in a stern voice. Nick, what's the meaning of this? The documents haven't been submitted at all. I apologize. The person in charge hasn't arrived at work yet. It's Risa, isn't it? She should have been here long ago. Don't tell me this is a regular occurrence? At those words, Nick's face turned even paler. It seemed that Risa was taking her sweet time coming to work, as usual. And then, as if on cue, for better or worse, Risa arrived at the office. Good morning, everyone. Phew, the train was so crowded, so I had to catch the next one. Risa, what on earth are you doing? And showing up late so brazenly? Oh, come on, Nick. This is just like always. Why are you so angry? Hearing her response, Christopher's face contorted with even greater fury. He walked right up to Risa, confronting her. Risa, do you always approach your work with such a lazy attitude? Senior Managing Director Christopher? Why are you here? You rarely show your face around here, do you? The documents you were supposed to submit are missing. They're all crucial for transactions and financial settlements. What have you been doing? At those words, Risa's face turned ashen. Of course, the documents in question were the ones I had urged her about yesterday. She had claimed to have finished them before leaving, but it seemed she hadn't even touched them. Mumbling, Risa pointed at a certain new employee and spoke. It was her. I asked her to submit them. So, it's not my fault. If you're talking about those documents, I have them. Emily interjected, stepping between the flustered new employee and Risa. Risa immediately directed her anger at Emily. You stopped her from submitting them, didn't you? You're the worst. Doesn't that mean the responsibility falls entirely on you? No, I saw you forcing the new employee to handle those documents, so I took over, Emily clarified. What? Those were hardly something to entrust to a new employee in the first place. Yes. When I checked the contents myself, I realized there was nothing I could do about it. But by the time I noticed, Risa had already left for the day. I was just about to report it today when Senior Managing Director Christopher arrived. I apologize for the delay in reporting, Emily said, bowing her head. This was what I had asked Emily to do. I had predicted that Risa would likely try to push the documents onto someone else, so I wanted Emily to take them on instead. It was a risky request that could have potentially put Emily in a position of responsibility, but if I had done it myself, Risa might have accused me of harassing her. Although I felt guilty about it, Emily readily agreed. Fortunately, Christopher spoke to her kindly about the situation. No, it's all right. You must have been very troubled by this too. You're not to blame. The one who needs to take responsibility this time is Risa, he reassured her. Why? I did nothing wrong. That's right. There's someone here who made the biggest blunder. It's Olivia, Risa exclaimed, pointing at me. Everyone's eyes turned to me. Even so, I maintained a composed demeanor. Why am I being held responsible? I questioned. You deliberately waited until the last minute to tell me about these documents, just to set me up. Risa accused. I reminded you multiple times. Despite informing you of the deadline well in advance, you chose to ignore it. Isn't that right, Risa? I countered. At my testimony, Risa raised her voice even further. It seemed she wanted to pin all the blame on me, spouting off nonsensical theories. Talking back to your superior. This is why I can't stand incompetent people like you. Everything that comes out of a dropout's mouth is just illusions and lies. Is that so? Then I suppose the rumors about you being hired through Nick's connections are also lies? What? I was hired based on my own competence. A low-educated dropout like you could never understand the level of ability that comes with being a college graduate. Boasting about her educational background at a time like this. It made me question her actual intelligence. But I was about to expose the very lie that was her academic credentials. Speaking of which, Risa, you claim to be a college graduate, but which university did you attend? Huh? Oh, that's... You can't say it, can you? After all, the university you supposedly graduated from is famous. In a sense, it's known for accepting anyone who can write their name on the application. The employees who had been listening in began to whisper among themselves. I could hear them saying things like, "But she said she went to a prestigious university." And, "I heard she graduated at the top of her class." That alone would be one thing. It's easy to embellish one's own background. But when it comes to the circumstances of joining this company and your relationship with Director Nick, that's a different story. What are you talking about? I won't allow you to say such baseless things. Nick exclaimed. Be quiet, Nick. Olivia, what do you mean by the circumstances of her joining the company? Christopher prompted. Thanks to Senior Managing Director Christopher encouraging me to continue, Director Nick bit his lip and fell silent. I handed a few documents to Christopher and continued speaking. Section Chief Risa bribed Director Nick to join this company and even obtained the position of Section Chief. What? That's slander. Where's your proof? Risa demanded. The evidence lies in what happened at the steakhouse you used for your own welcoming party. Risa, looking completely baffled by my words, snorted and said, So what? I'm telling you to show me the evidence. This is why low-educated people are hopeless. That restaurant is one I secured a deal with when I was working in sales. It's also a place I recommended to Director Nick. It seems you still have a very good relationship with them. What did you say? Risa exclaimed, her face paling as realization dawned on her. Director Nick also seemed to have a strong connection to that restaurant, as his complexion instantly turned sour. Emily heard from the restaurant staff during the recent dinner party that you frequently visit that place, I revealed. Yes. And Section Chief Risa told me that this restaurant is perfect for sucking up to superiors, Emily added. After that, I asked the restaurant staff for permission to stake out on the day you made a reservation. As a result, we obtained evidence of you and Director Nick meeting in secret and exchanging money and goods. As Christopher listened to our statements, he seemed to have finished reading the documents. After letting out a sigh, his expression quickly changed to one of anger. This steakhouse is an important establishment for our company. To think you used it as a place to give bribes. This is beyond senseless. Christopher's voice, trembling with rage, echoed through the room. Unexpectedly, both Risa and Nick's faces turned pale. For the sake of the investigation, I have informed the restaurant about this matter. Fortunately, perhaps because I was the one who explained the situation as the person in charge, they seem willing to continue our business relationship. Then it's fine, isn't it? It's good for the restaurant's sales, and if anything, we could even give them a token of gratitude. Risa tried to recover. However, they are uncomfortable with having someone engaged in such fraudulent activities within our company and have requested that punishment be imposed. Risa's attempt to redeem herself was shattered by my words. I looked directly at Risa and spoke again. Of course, it's not uncommon for people to get hired through some connections. Building relationships is an important part of being a working adult, after all. Then there should be no reason for me to be criticized. Wouldn't you be happy to have a capable person join the company? Risa argued. Capable? Is pushing all your work onto others while you lounge in the break room something a capable person would do? In reality, weren't you just forcing tasks you couldn't handle onto those around you? Risa was rendered speechless by my words, her mouth opening and closing without a sound. It seemed I had hit the nail on the head. I pressed on, refusing to let up. Even if someone gets hired through connections, as long as they do their job well, I have no problem with that. But hiding one's own incompetence by causing trouble for others and bribing superiors to avoid being called out on it? That's unacceptable, not just as a professional, but as a human being. As I delivered my scathing rebuke, Christopher's demeanor underwent a drastic change. Gone was his earlier agitation, replaced by an unsettling calm. He spoke quietly, his voice cold and unwavering. We will conduct an official investigation into this matter. If any wrongdoing is uncovered, appropriate disciplinary action will be taken. I will personally apologize to the other party involved. Faced with Christopher's overwhelming presence, neither Risa nor Nick dared to utter a word. Fixing his gaze upon the two of them, Christopher declared, As of today, Risa and Nick are suspended pending investigation. You are not to interfere with the proceedings in any way. You will remain at home until a verdict is reached. The weight of his words seemed to crush them, their bodies crumpling under the force of his judgment. In a desperate bid for mercy, Risa threw herself at my feet, clinging to my legs. Please, you have to do something. If I lose this job, my dad and mom will. Oh, so now you come crawling to the dropout you've mocked and belittled all this time? If I offended you, I'll apologize. That's what you want, right? An apology? I'll do it, so please. Her pleas were met with a gaze of utter contempt, my eyes cold and unforgiving. I delivered the final blow, my words sharp as a blade. As a top performer, I have no interest in incompetent employees. In the real world, merit and ability matter far more than a fancy degree. With that, I shook off her grasping hands and returned to my desk, leaving her to wallow in her despair. Under Christopher's furious admonishments, Risa and Nick slunk away, retreating to their homes in disgrace. In the days that followed, an official investigation was launched. It soon came to light that Risa had been funneling substantial bribes to Nick in exchange for her position and preferential treatment. As if that weren't enough, it was also discovered that Nick had been fraudulently expensing personal meals and entertainment, passing them off as business-related. Faced with such egregious misconduct, Nick was summarily fired, his employment terminated with immediate effect. To add insult to injury, he was slapped with a hefty fine, saddling him with a mountain of debt. His prospects for future employment were bleak, the circumstances of his dismissal serving as a black mark against his name. Last I heard, he was scraping by on a regular day labor, living a hand-to-mouth existence not far removed from homelessness. Risa, while spared the financial penalties, did not emerge unscathed. It came to light that she had been deceiving her parents, claiming the money they gave her was for educational expenses when in reality, she was using it to fund her bribes. When the truth was laid bare, her family disowned her, casting her out to fend for herself. With no marketable skills beyond her ability to leverage connections, Risa found herself adrift. No company would touch her, her resume tainted by the scandal. She was forced to sell off her entire collection of designer goods, relying on the meager proceeds and what little savings she had to keep herself afloat. But even that was not enough. Emily later confided in me that she had spotted Risa working in the red light district to make ends meet. As for me, my role in maintaining client relationships throughout the ordeal, coupled with my efforts to uncover and expose the corruption within our ranks, earned me newfound respect and admiration from my superiors. In recognition of my contributions, I was offered the newly vacant position of section chief. Emily, too, was rewarded for her invaluable assistance. She was promoted to assistant manager, a well-deserved advancement. Emily and I decided to visit that steakhouse together to celebrate our promotions. "I can't believe I got promoted too!" Emily exclaimed, her eyes wide with amazement. "Apparently, there had been talks about promoting you for a while, but those two were standing in the way," I revealed, shaking my head in disbelief. "Really? Geez, all they ever did was hold people back," Emily sighed, her frustration evident. As she took a bite of the sizzling steak, the anger that had been etched on her face melted away, replaced by an expression of pure happiness. "Back then, I was so preoccupied with everything going on that I couldn't even taste the food. But today, I can truly appreciate how delicious it is," she declared, savoring each morsel with delight. "I'm so glad. To be honest, I was really disappointed that I didn't get to eat here last time," I admitted, cutting into my own steak with anticipation. As I savored the succulent meat, I couldn't help but think back to the moment when my senior had treated me to a celebratory dinner at this very restaurant after I successfully secured their business. It had infuriated me to know that this place had been used for such underhanded dealings, but I was relieved that we had managed to resolve the situation somehow. "We should come here to eat every once in a while," I suggested, raising my glass in a toast. With that, Emily and I clinked our glasses together, enjoying our delicious meal and the company of each other. "Taking care of Dad and Mom is all on you, my dear wife. If you oppose, I'll divorce you and sue for alimony, huh?" Could he really believe such an absurd demand would pass? I looked at Georgina, utterly exasperated. Alex stood there boldly, giving me a nasty smirk while looking at me. He must think I would accept his demand. Indeed, I've complied with the requests for the sake of the in-laws, believing it was the right thing to do. Regardless of Alex, I thought those two were good people. But now, having seen Brittany's true nature, I've lost all concern, let alone any sympathy. I smiled back at Alex. "All right then. Let's get a divorce. Don't come crying to me later. Talking back to your husband, what a failure of a wife. Good riddance. Choosing your job over Dad and Mom. Unbelievable." "Oh, my apologies for that." "Exactly. I'd prioritize Dad and Mom over my job any day. Unlike you, who's utterly heartless," Alex boasted too proudly. Then why didn't he take time off work now? Instead of pushing it onto me, he should just take a break and help out his parents. Blaming and pushing responsibilities onto me without lifting a finger, what a way to shift the blame. "From now on, even if we see each other at work, don't you dare speak to me." "Ah, I should have chosen a different company." Alex's parting words pushed me to my limit. Then you're fired. What? Fired? You're not my boss. What are you on about? Gone mad from the divorce shock? I couldn't help but reveal a truth Alex was unaware of. I'm Ren, 40 years old. I run an apparel company. I started this company at 26. Having lost my parents early, I motivated myself by setting goals and focusing on achieving them. Decades later, I've dedicated my life to stabilizing the business, working tirelessly. As my friends got married one by one, I didn't even have a boyfriend. There was no time to play. I traveled for work, both domestically and internationally. There were years I don't recall taking any time off. Surrounded by relatives and acquaintances, I was often met with veiled criticism disguised as concern. Aren't you going to run out of time to have children if you don't hurry up? Is work really that enjoyable for you? Don't you get lonely? Arguing back would only invite more nagging. So, I took to leaving those situations with a forced smile as quickly as possible. All the effort I poured into my life paid off, and the company's performance steadily improved. Finally, I could afford to take regular breaks and had the luxury to enjoy my personal life. By this time, I was already 38 years old. At this point, I wasn't particularly keen on marriage, but the idea of having a good partner was appealing. That's when I met my husband, Alex. Our meeting was sparked by a soccer game. Suggested by a subordinate, I went to watch a game on a whim and met Alex there, cheering for the same team, and we hit it off. After attending a few games together, we started going out, and then he asked me out. Alex was the same age as me, but seemed remarkably youthful. He had many hobbies, from baseball to video games, manga, and golf, dragging me along to all sorts of activities. Having never really had time to play before, my time with Alex was incredibly exciting and fun. Being my first boyfriend at 38, I was honestly quite thrilled. One day, Alex broached the subject. Would you meet my parents? If I'm going to marry someone, it's going to be Ren. That's why I want to properly introduce you to them. This was about 2 months into our relationship. Caught off guard, I couldn't refuse, always looking forward to the fun times with Alex. Things went smoothly, and a week later, we visited Alex's parents' house. Oh my! To be dating such a lovely person, my son is a lucky man. Indeed. What a wonderful young lady. And for Alex to introduce a girlfriend to us, that's a first. He must be really smitten. Warm and welcoming, Alex's parents showered me with compliments, leaving me flattered and embarrassed throughout the visit. Alex, sitting next to me, smugly commented, "Right? A catch at 38. Right? A catch at 38. Though crudely put, it seemed meant as a compliment in Alex's way. With such wonderful parents, I felt we could have a good relationship after marriage. I was relieved the meeting went well. However, I was slightly concerned that Alex referred to his parents as mom and dad. A calling I hadn't often heard from adult men in my circles, which initially surprised me. But considering the differences in each family, I decided not to dwell on it negatively. Alex seemed to have a good relationship with his parents, often praising his mother excessively. While endearing, some aspects felt off-putting at times. Like when the conversation turned to cooking. What kind of dishes do you excel at, Ren? I wouldn't say I excel, but I often cook Western-style meals. At this, Alex enthusiastically chimed in. Right. She makes steak a lot. They're edible, but when compared to Mom's cooking. Oh, that's a great idea. Why don't you teach her your recipes? I understood the comfort of familiar tastes. But his wording left me feeling complex. Unperturbed by my feelings, Alex's mother was delighted. Well then, I must compile a notebook for Alex's sake. She was enjoying herself. As we were about to leave, a shocking truth came to light. When are you two getting married? Asked by Alex's mother. Alex casually replied, causing me to be taken aback. I'd marry her right now if I could. It'd make life easier, especially since part-time work doesn't pay much. Part-time? Indeed, when I first met Alex and inquired about his job, he vaguely mentioned something like sales. I too had been vague about my job, saying only something in apparel, as we were still just getting to know each other. Everyone has things they'd rather not discuss. I figured we could talk about it more once we got a bit closer. I had completely forgotten about it, never imagining he was working part-time. Stunned, Alex explained with a frustrated look. What's with that face? Thinking even at 38? But, you see, there's a good reason for this. Turns out, Alex's mother has always been frail and prone to sickness. Then, 2 years ago, his father fell ill and needed care. Alex, who was working in sales at a steel company at the time, quit to take care of his father, switching to a more flexible part-time job. Mom alone would have a hard time, right? I just wanted to be there for my parents. I thought it'd be fine to stay part-time for that reason. Alex glanced at his parents and nodded. Recently, both Mom and Dad have been in good health, so I'm thinking of getting a full-time job again. I gotta work hard if I'm going to marry Ren. Hearing about the part-time work, I felt ashamed of my disappointment. Alex had simply prioritized his parents over his job. What a kind and warm person he is. And now, he's thinking of what's best for me. After our conversation, I thought for a moment and then made Alex an offer. If you're interested, why don't you apply to my company? Eh? Work at the same company as Ren? Yeah. It's a bit different, but you were in sales before, right? We're actually looking for sales staff right now. I meant well with my suggestion, but Alex visibly grimaced. I'd rather work somewhere I can earn more. I want to make Mom feel secure. Did he think I wasn't earning enough? I explained more about our company. Showing him job listings, I pointed out the salary and holidays, along with other benefits. Alex, who had been skeptically browsing the site, gradually warmed up to the idea. This might not be too bad after all. And so, he applied to a position at my company. Fortunately, we were looking to significantly expand our sales department, so Georgina was hired. Pressured somewhat by his parents, we registered our marriage. Who would have thought we'd end up working at the same company? Indeed. By the way, which department are you in? It seems Alex still thought of it as just the company I work for, not realizing I'm the owner. I hadn't kept it a secret on purpose, but it felt awkward to bring it up, and I hadn't mentioned it yet. This seemed like a good opportunity, so, with a nervous heart, I was about to reveal the truth. Actually, Alex cut me off with an unexpected remark. Well, it doesn't matter. I'll probably quit eventually anyway. Eh? Quit. What did he mean by that? A bad feeling washed over me. Alex glanced at me and laughed, a smile I hadn't seen before. It scared me. What? You got a problem? No, it's not a complaint, but what do you mean? I'm not planning to quit my job now. Oh, unless we have kids? But my company offers maternity and paternity leave. Kids are out of the question. We're already busy with Dad and Mom. Dad and Mom? As I tilted my head, Alex mimicked me mockingly. Yeah, my parents. Didn't I say they need care? Rosalind? I heard, but you said they've been doing well lately. That's why you re-entered the workforce, right? Even if they're doing well, they're still elderly, aren't they? Aren't you worried at all? Or what? As a wife, are you planning to shirk that responsibility? I couldn't grasp what Alex was trying to say, feeling bewildered. I needed to clear my head and sort things out. Alex was trying to push the responsibility of caregiving onto me. And from how he spoke, it seemed he eventually planned to have me quit my job to prioritize caregiving. I'm not saying you should quit right away. Having two incomes helps financially. For now, just come back to the family home with me on our days off. What is that supposed to mean? I wasn't completely unprepared for the caregiving conversation. I had intended to help out, and I had thought that I could be of assistance in the future. But I never imagined being expected to return to my in-laws' house every holiday, eventually being burdened with caregiving responsibilities. What surprised me most was Alex's attitude. Before marriage, he was positive and reliable, but he changed drastically as soon as we got married. Is this person really Alex? I didn't want to believe it. This isn't the person I wanted to marry. I wanted to escape from reality by closing my eyes tightly, but Alex's angry voice relentlessly broke through. Listen, you're my wife. Don't defy me. Got it? I was so shocked by the change that I couldn't agree or disagree. I wish I hadn't married at all if I knew this would happen. Regret filled my mind, and the word divorce quickly followed. Society might frown upon a divorce so soon after getting married. But that seemed less important than wasting time with someone unpleasant. I prepared the divorce papers right away. The issue was the reason for divorce and the in-laws. The reason for divorce could be managed somehow. If necessary, I could even involve a lawyer. But the in-laws were a bigger concern. As Alex declared, we started visiting his parents' house on our days off. I was reluctant to go because Alex treated me poorly. But his parents were overjoyed every time we visited. I'm sorry for making you come here on your day off. No, it's okay. Brittany, teary-eyed with joy, made it impossible for me to rudely decline their hospitality. Every visit, they prepared my favorite sweets, telling me how much they appreciated it. Though I disliked being controlled by Alex, seeing Brittany happy made it difficult to bring up divorce, and time passed. By 2 months into our marriage, Georgina and I had started visiting his family home separately. Our days off just didn't align anymore. Initially, I had forced myself to adjust to Alex's schedule. Meanwhile, I had kept it a secret that I was the president of the company. The Alex before our marriage might have been fine, but revealing this to the current Alex would only invite trouble. Although it would be easy to find out if he looked into it, luckily, Alex seemed oblivious. Alex was a source of concern both as a husband and as an employee, causing numerous problems at work. I wanted to resolve the issues at work quickly and get a divorce. But what about Brittany? Despite everything, I didn't want to upset them. Torn, I headed to my in-laws' house as usual. Lately, I had become accustomed to entering the house without waiting to be invited. Today, as always, I opened the door and took off my shoes. That's when I heard a familiar voice from the back. Undoubtedly, it was Alex's voice. He was supposed to work today, but perhaps his schedule had changed. Feeling awkward, I walked down the hall and was about to enter the living room when I overheard their conversation. That person, she's not very considerate, is she? And her housekeeping is subpar. She's earnest, but couldn't you find someone better? Indeed, it was Brittany's voice. However, the tone was so full of malice, unlike anything I had heard from her before. It sounded like something out of a movie, so spiteful and unlike the Brittany I knew. Yet, it was unmistakably Brittany's voice. Despite all the praise she had given me, the thought of the gentle Brittany saying such things tightened my chest. I didn't want to hear any more, but my legs felt too heavy to move. "Sorry, Mom. But, she's tall, so she might be able to carry you if necessary. With a bit of training, she could become more useful." "Well, for now, she's pleasant and financially supportive, so I suppose that's acceptable. We're hoping for potential, I guess." Alex and Brittany were laughing carelessly as they spoke. As I listened, my heart pounded with the realization that they were talking about me. Georgina's constant complaints were one thing, but I was shocked to discover Brittany's hidden side. Brittany, who always seemed so grateful, who would lower their head in thanks repeatedly, making me feel almost guilty. We shared laughs over snacks and meals I had cooked. Regardless of Alex's intentions, I thought I had a good relationship with Brittany. I had hesitated on divorce partly because of Brittany. Yet, according to their conversation, I was merely a caregiving resource for Brittany as well. Brittany then added insult to injury with this remark: "For now, I'll keep praising her and egging her on. She looks so foolishly happy then. Alex, you should learn from me. A fool and his scissors are easily parted, as they say." Hearing this, I left the house as if fleeing. After calming myself down a bit, I contacted Alex and his family. "I'm going to be busy for a while and won't be able to visit or contact you. I'll reach out again later." Despite multiple calls from both Alex and his family, I ignored them all. Alex's angry messages were even recorded on the voicemail. "Do you think you can trouble Mom like this? Apologize to her in person right now. You don't have the right to refuse." As if anyone would comply after being spoken to like that. Naturally, I ignored this too. At work, I made sure not to run into Alex and started staying at a hotel after hours. During this time, I methodically prepared for divorce. Then, one day when preparations were sufficiently in place, I was finally caught by Georgina, who had been lying in wait at the office. "Hey! Ren!" Upon spotting me, Georgina looked like he was about to grab me but restrained himself, likely due to the presence of others. I decided to move the conversation to an empty conference room to talk with Alex. "I've been looking for you. What do you think you're doing? How many times have I called you? Do you have any idea how much I've been searching for you?" Alex was clearly furious. His breath was heavy, and his eyes, bloodshot and glaring, seemed to curse me with every look. As soon as we entered the room, he approached me with heavy footsteps. Then, standing right in front of me, he aggressively grabbed my wrist. "Let go! I told you on the phone, didn't I? I'll contact you when I've calmed down. Is there anything more important to you than my dad and Mom? Do you realize how lonely you've made them feel by not being there?" Lonely? They were talking behind my back, and yet he dares to complain. I trembled with anger. I wished I could shut him up right there and hurl at him the worst insults I could think of. But I was too agitated to articulate my thoughts properly, so all I could do was grit my teeth and glare at Alex. Taking advantage of my silence, Alex continued. "Poor them, right? Even now, they're hungry because there's no food at home. Forget work today. You should just go back home." "Don't you dare tell me what to do with my work. You're not a child, and caregiving doesn't mean you can't move. It's about time you stopped being so dependent." I shook off Alex's hand and yelled, "I have an important meeting later today. There's no way I can just take off. And if it's so important, you should take a day off and go yourself. There was no need for me to sacrifice so much for such people. Throwing away important work for them? Alex probably never expected me to fight back. He staggered back, surprised. You're talking back to me. A wife's place is too. I've been thinking, your values are skewed. What do you mean a wife's place? They're your parents, aren't they? Shouldn't you be taking care of them instead of pushing it onto someone else? Indeed, Alex's work today was supposed to be just preparing documents and meetings in the office. The document preparation could be rescheduled, and the meetings could be rearranged if he asked others, without causing much inconvenience. If Brittany was so important, he should be the one to take time off. If he won't, it shows how little they matter to him. Yet he dares to blame and try to control me. Such a convenient mama's boy. Disgusting. What? That's ridiculous. Why should I, the husband, have to bow my head and skip work just to clean up after my wife? Clean up what exactly? It's time to make things clear. Listen up. Taking care of my parents is your job as my wife. If you can't do that, you're worthless as a wife. Alex launched into a tirade, puffing up his chest with rough breaths, as if trying to intimidate me. Was he trying to scare me? He seemed like some playground bully. Not scary at all. What even is the value of a wife? Why do I have to be evaluated? So, what exactly do you want from me? I asked, my voice laced with a sigh. Alex snorted derisively. Taking care of Dad and Mom is all on you, my dear wife. If you oppose, I'll divorce you and sue for alimony, huh? Could he seriously believe such an absurd demand would fly? I looked at Alex, utterly dumbfounded, but there he was, standing tall and proud, giving me a nasty smirk. He must think I'd comply with his demand after becoming attached to Brittany. Indeed, I had been accommodating to the in-laws, thinking it was for the best. Regardless of Alex, I thought those two were good people. But now, having seen Brittany's true colors, I couldn't care less, let alone feel any sympathy. I smiled back at Alex. All right then. Let's get a divorce. Huh? Alex sounded completely taken aback. Do you even understand what you're saying? Yes. I can't be the wife you want. So, let's get a divorce, shall we? If you want to sue for alimony, go ahead. Whether you'll get it is another matter, though. I pulled out the divorce papers from my bag and handed them to Georgina. I had been keeping them on hand ever since I considered divorce. Are you serious? Do you realize what you're doing? Yes. Please, sign them quickly. Alex froze, seemingly in disbelief. Seeing his hesitation, I said, "Oh, you're not divorcing? Just talk, then?" Which made him furiously scribble his signature on the papers. After reviewing the signed document, everything was in order. I immediately handed it over to my secretary to file. Well, we're strangers now. As I stated matter-of-factly, Alex spat out. You'll regret this. Talking back to your husband, what a failure of a wife. Good riddance. Choosing your job over Dad and Mom. Unbelievable. Oh, my apologies for that. Exactly. Even if I lost my job, I'd prioritize Dad and Mom. I'm not heartless like you. Alex said this with too much pride. Then why didn't he take time off now? Instead of pushing it onto me, he should just take a break and help out his parents. Blaming me while he just complains is just passing the buck. From now on, even if we see each other at work, don't talk to me. I should have chosen a different company. Alex's parting shot pushed me to my limit. Then you're fired. I believe it was the coldest voice I've ever used. Alex stopped in his tracks and turned around and puzzled. Huh? Dismissed? You're not my boss. Have you gone mad from the divorce shock? Alex laughed, perhaps thinking it was a joke. I sighed softly and fixed my gaze on Georgina. When our eyes met, Alex flinched, looking at me, anxiously, bracing for what was to come. I inhaled deeply and spoke calmly. The funny one is you. You don't even recognize the face of your own company's president? Huh? No, that can't be. Alex's mouth twitched as he pulled out his smartphone and started searching. As he stared at the screen, the color drained from his face. He must have finally realized who I was. You're the president of this company? Finally caught on, have you? Alex knelt down and bowed his head to me, his voice trembling pitifully. It's not like that, Ren. I didn't know. Not know? No, you chose not to know, didn't you? I never brought it up, but there were plenty of opportunities for him to find out. A simple search on his phone would have revealed my name, if not my photo. It was typical of Alex. He probably never had any interest. A man without particular concern for the content of his work, focusing solely on income and time off. That's why his work performance has always been subpar. To you, I was merely an afterthought, wasn't I? What you and your parents truly desired was a diligent, hardworking wife. Someone to take care of them, anyone would do, right? Alex, mouth agape, shook his head, his face turning a ghastly shade of pale. Not at all. Had I known you were the president, I would never have expected you to shoulder the caregiving. I would have taken care of Dad and Mom myself, allowing you to concentrate on your work. With sufficient funds, one could easily hire assistants. You'd have me earn while outsourcing caregiving to professionals, and you'd merely enjoy life, right? Alex, with a faint smile, whispered, I wouldn't do something so terrible. Indeed, had Alex navigated things more adeptly, such a future might have been attainable. Had he proposed this before I discovered his parents' true nature, I would have agreed without hesitation. I'll earn so you can dedicate yourself to caregiving. I believe he would have sincerely said that. If Alex and his parents not shown their true colors after marriage, such a future could have been plausible. He squandered that opportunity by his own doing. Alex looked up at me, eyes seemingly moist, with a plea. Please, Ren! Can't we start over? We had good times, didn't we? Let's visit all those places again. True, you always took me to places I never knew. Every place you took me was indeed fun. A glimmer of hope shone in Alex's face. Right? So, if that's the case. However, that was merely you donning a mask to get married. Life with you post-marriage was profoundly disappointing. That is. I wonder if the divorce papers have been processed by now. Well, I must prepare for a meeting. Regarding the dismissal, I'll contact you later. You may leave for today. I packed my belongings, waved flippantly at Alex, and reached for the door. But before I could open it, Alex grasped my left hand. Turning around, I faced Alex's glare. I glared back and simply asked, Anything else? Anything else? This isn't over. Suddenly deciding on a divorce, then revealing you're the president, and now a dismissal. I can't just accept this. It's all too arbitrary on your part. The divorce was initiated by you. You didn't expect me to agree to it. Moreover, you should have properly informed me that you were the president. It appears Alex had planned to use the divorce as leverage to control me. The revelation of my presidency must have been a shock to him. Blaming others and shirking responsibility onto his wife. Such actions are unbecoming of an adult. It's absurd that I had to set everything up for him, yet he never questioned it. He's always lived by blaming others. I'm at a loss for words from sheer disbelief. Alex is grinding his back teeth, seemingly regretting letting go of his financial support, but that's not my concern. Isn't that too self-serving? Blaming me for your lack of planning and ignorance isn't fair, I said, causing Alex's face to flush red as he yelled back in a strained voice. Coward! How can the president of such a large company justify firing an employee for personal gain? That's unacceptable. Such tyranny won't be tolerated. Alex postured as if he had the moral high ground. His thinking is too immature. Always believing he's in the right. Can he not comprehend what's been said? I couldn't help but hold my head in my hands. Seeing me like this, Alex, thinking he had won, smirked triumphantly. See? I hit the nail on the head. Should I bring this to light? You'd be the one in trouble. I'm astounded by your foolishness. If it comes out, you're the one who'll suffer. What are you talking about? I cut Alex off, listing names. General Affairs Hoyt, Sales Gracelyn, Winter, and Accounting's Paisley. Who else was there? When I asked Alex, he began sweating profusely and looking away. What? What are you talking about? You know very well. I just named female employees you've been persistently harassing. They've come to me seeking help. Most employees don't know Alex is my husband. Only my secretary is aware. Among them, I received complaints like, I'm troubled by the constant invitations from sales Alex. At first, I doubted my ears. My own husband was hitting on multiple young female employees. And despite their rejections, he kept coming back. I was mortified and apologetic beyond words. I was just trying to foster camaraderie among employees, Alex defended. By specifically targeting women over a decade younger than you? And inviting them to hotels? What kind of camaraderie were you trying to build? There were messages sent from Alex to these women, undeniable proof. No matter what Alex said, there was no escaping it. You're not only underperforming, but you're also a nuisance to others. It's my job as president to remove those who are detrimental to the company, isn't it? But that's right. And from accounting, there's a report that you might be fudging expenses. What about that? Surely, you wouldn't stoop so low, would you? Alex averted his eyes and fell silent. Regrettably, it seems that was true as well. A mama's boy, a womanizer, and on top of that, a miser. Moreover, to think he caused trouble not just for me but for others too, it's disappointing not just as a husband but as a person. I'm disillusioned by my lack of judgment in not seeing him for what he was. Feeling inept for not having seen through such a person. I'll make sure all suspicions are cleared up before proceeding with the dismissal, so rest assured. Well, I'm leaving now. You better get along with your parents back home. Alex collapsed on the spot. Slumped over, muttering something under his breath. He must have realized it was all too late. Even as I reached for the door, Alex, now devoid of energy, didn't say anything more, and I left the room. Upon further investigation, all suspicions against Alex were confirmed. After making Alex apologize to the affected female employees, he resigned voluntarily, taking responsibility. Now jobless, Alex returned to live with his parents at home. A while later, he attempted to start working again part-time, but then something unexpected happened to Alex. Until now, though former Rosalind needed care, former Brittany was essentially able to manage daily tasks on her own. Thanks to this, Alex only had to help out occasionally. However, former Brittany has recently started showing signs of dementia, including instances of wandering at night, a father who physically requires care, and a mother who is usually fine but occasionally shows symptoms of dementia. I just can't find peace anymore. We're running out of money too. Please help. I received a plea for help from Alex, indicating he was at his limit. If our divorce had been amicable and there were no hard feelings towards my former in-laws, I might have been inclined to help. But these were the people who had looked down on me as nothing more than a caregiver. There's no room for sympathy. It sounds tough, but I'm afraid I cannot offer any assistance. Furthermore, as we are now strangers, I kindly ask that you refrain from contacting me further. Depending on the situation, I may have to take appropriate actions. After conveying this, I no longer received any messages from Alex. After divorcing Alex, I had decided I was done with marriage and resolved to live alone. However, just when I had settled on this, someone I had known for many years through work confessed his feelings to me. The trauma from Alex made me consider declining, but knowing this person's sincerity from our long acquaintance, I gratefully accepted the offer to start dating. Whether this will lead to marriage, I'm uncertain, and part of me doubts, fearing a change post-marriage, but this person is the most gentle individual I've ever met. Moreover, since he is also a business owner, we can share and understand each other's work. Unlike with Alex, he truly feels like a partner should. If I can spend the future with him, this happiness I feel now will surely continue. Hoping for such a future, I continue to work hard today. If you don't want kids, maybe I'll have them. Maybe I should just divorce and we have them. Suddenly, the word divorce popped up at an oddly serene dinner table. My heart skipped a beat, and I inadvertently stopped what I was doing. But I quickly lifted my head and faced the two of them again. All right, we're getting a divorce, then. Huh? Despite being the ones to bring it up, both looked surprised at my response. Seeing their reaction, I immediately backtracked on the divorce talk. Right, of course. You're obviously joking. Osamand laughed, relieved. Next to him, Carly covered her mouth with her hand, chuckling along. But the truth is, I do want a divorce. However, I haven't gathered enough evidence yet. I'm far from ready to make a move. I want to set things straight with Osamand and others, but only when everything is in order. This conversation only made me more determined than before. Yeah, just kidding. I joined in on Osamand's laughter, making sure not to let on that I'm serious about wanting a divorce. My name is Lena. I'm 27. I used to work in an office at a design company, but after getting married, I quit my job to become a housewife. My husband's name is Osamand. We met at a party I was invited to by a friend. I've never been good at socializing. On days off, I'd stay in, and even on work days, I'd skip out on drinking parties and outings, preferring to spend time alone. Because of that lifestyle, it's no surprise I hadn't had a boyfriend in a while. All my friends and juniors were either married or in relationships. It made me anxious whenever the topic of boyfriends or husbands came up. I felt the pressure to find someone soon, when this opportunity came from a friend. My friend was surprised I took up the invitation. Wow, I invited you without expecting much. I know I'm the one that invited you, but did something happen? Nothing really. Just had a change of heart. I'm getting to that age where I should find a boyfriend and start thinking about the future. I shared my thoughts without holding anything back. Then, I see. You've had a change of heart. I'm glad I invited you, my friend said, laughing. On the day of the party, I went to the bar, which was the venue, with my friend, and a few people were already there, chatting and having a good time. She easily joined the group, but I couldn't. Even as the party started, I couldn't manage to join in on the conversations and ended up drinking alone at the edge of the room. I wondered if it was impossible for someone like me to find a boyfriend. I stared at my nearly empty glass, lost in thought. The lively chatter from around me filled the air. My friend seemed to be enjoying the party, being at the center of the conversation. I envied those who could genuinely enjoy such gatherings. I wished I could be like that. As I looked at my watch thinking about leaving early, someone approached me. Hey, what's up? You look pretty lonely over here. Huh. A man started talking to me. That man would later become my husband, Osamand. Would you like to talk with me? Yes, I would. Osamand took a seat next to me, placing the drink he had been sipping on the table. We had introduced ourselves earlier, so we knew each other's names. So, you're Lena, right? Yes, and you're Osamand. That's right. Thanks for remembering my name. Osamand thanked me, looking genuinely pleased. After that, we didn't join the rest of the group, opting instead to continue our conversation just between the two of us. We started with work, then moved on to hobbies, and even where we lived, the topics varied. Wow, really? Osamand seemed to pick up on my nervousness and made an effort to keep the conversation lively. Before I knew it, I was swept up in his enthusiasm, and my nervousness had vanished. Osamand was having fun talking, and he seemed genuinely interested in listening to me. Eventually, I found myself becoming fond of Osamand. I myself thought I was too easy. But for someone who doesn't usually talk to people, this was enough to make me take notice. After the party ended, we went to a bar to continue drinking, just the two of us. Alone with me, Osamand's demeanor changed completely from before, becoming more composed. Perhaps he had been playing up to the atmosphere before. Yet, his willingness to listen to me remained unchanged. Seeing this side of Osamand made my feelings for him grow. Today was fun. Thank you. Thank you as well. We hit it off so well that we exchanged our numbers and agreed to meet again. After that, we started seeing each other frequently. Could things really go this smoothly? The moment I decided to find a boyfriend, I was invited to a party and met someone compatible. I had expected more of a struggle, so I was a bit taken aback by how easily things were progressing. About 2 months after the party, Osamand confessed his feelings, and we started dating. He was just as kind to me as he had been before we were officially together. Whenever we both had time off, we would go on drives or trips, spending time together. That said, Osamand was busy with work, so our schedules didn't always match up, and we probably saw each other less often than other couples might. But we made up for it with phone calls and emails. I was satisfied with that. To say I wasn't lonely would be a lie. I wanted to see Osamand more, to be with Osamand more. Those feelings only grew stronger day by day. However, on the days we could meet, I was filled with happiness. Each time, I was reminded of how much I liked Osamand. Then one day, during our usual routine, Osamand suddenly introduced me to a woman. I want you to meet someone. Carly. She's an old friend of mine. Pleased to meet you. The woman introduced as Carly was Osamand's childhood friend. From what I heard, Osamand and Carly had been close since kindergarten, and they still visited each other's parents' homes and went out to eat together. Carly has always been such a great person. Oh, remember that time? Wait, why are you bringing that up now? I mean, it did happen, but Osamand and Carly were completely engrossed in their own world, chatting away. Naturally, I had no idea how to navigate this situation. All I could do was watch them with a forced smile, feeling out of place. Noticing my discomfort, Osamand said, I'm sorry. I figured you'd be seeing Carly around, so I thought I'd introduce you. Honestly, I wondered why I needed to get along with his childhood friend in the future. But I wasn't strong enough to voice such thoughts there and then. I just went along with it, trying not to upset Osamand and his friend. Oh, is that so? But you didn't know I was meeting with you today, right? Sorry if it feels like I just showed up out of the blue. Not at all. Please don't worry about it. I'm really glad to meet you. Really? Thank you. Carly smiled sweetly, thanking me. However, as time went on, Osamand and Carly continued to create their own little world, leaving me feeling left out. At first, I desperately tried to join in their conversation, but eventually, I realized it was futile and just sat there, sipping my coffee alone. If they were going to talk amongst themselves, I wondered why I was even needed there. I felt a mix of sadness and emptiness, silently observing them. The situation didn't change until 2 hours later when I finally managed to excuse myself from their company, after being treated like I wasn't there. I'm really sorry. It's been a while since I've seen Carly. I see. No, it's totally fine. It's good that you got to catch up after so long. Yeah. I'm really sorry. Osamand apologized, seeming genuinely remorseful. It appeared he was aware that he had done something wrong. I couldn't help feeling slightly angry that he had created this exclusive world with Carly in the first place. No, really, it's okay. I accepted Osamand's apology without holding any grudge. After that incident, Osamand never brought up Carly again. Perhaps he realized it was a sensitive issue. He started to check on my feelings more, likely thinking he had indeed made a mistake. At the time, I felt lonely and insecure, but deep down, I knew it wasn't something to make a big deal about. After all, they were childhood friends. It made sense that they'd get caught up in conversation after a long time apart. However, I couldn't bring myself to say I was okay with Carly. I didn't want to dredge up the topic myself. A few weeks after meeting Carly, Osamand's behavior returned to normal, and it felt like our daily life had resumed. A year later, Osamand proposed, and we got married. The wedding was attended by family, friends, colleagues, and Carly. Carly seemed genuinely happy for us. Congratulations on your wedding. I'm sure you know, but Osamand is really a great guy, and I believe you'll be very happy together. Thank you. Carly made a point to come over to me and speak. Her smile was a complex mix of happiness and loneliness. After the wedding, we returned to the new apartment we had rented as a married couple. Though we were already officially married and lived together, I remembered when we moved in and felt somewhat embarrassed. Osamand was right there beside me. Just the thought of being able to share the same space with him from now on filled my heart with joy. I couldn't help but smile at the thought of our future together. I wanted to spend forever with Osamand. However, this happy life did not last long. Even after marriage, Osamand was still busy with work, but he made sure to spend as much time with me as possible. Except for when he had work dinners or special occasions, he would always come home before the date changed, and despite being tired himself, he would offer kind words to me as I did the housework. He was with me all weekend, taking me on trips and shopping. It might have seemed ordinary, but I felt truly happy with just that. But then, suddenly, a certain person started to intrude on our lives, significantly changing our routine. It was during a weekend shopping trip in town with Osamand. I spotted a familiar figure. It was Carly. She had seen us too and hurried over with a happy expression. Hey, Osam and Lena. Carly! What a coincidence! As I was about to greet her, Osamand casually reached out and tousled Carly's hair. Hey, Osamand! You're messing up my hair. Ah, sorry. I just can't help it when I see you. I understood that they were close, but seeing them like this pained my heart. Osamand didn't seem to think it was a big deal, and Carly didn't seem to mind. They started talking without paying any attention to me, reigniting a sense of emptiness within me. I didn't know what to do, so I just looked at nearby products and thought vaguely about where to go next. Despite being able to see me, Carly continued to talk to Osamand without any concern. The conversation lasted about 10 minutes before ending. Sorry. I didn't realize you two were on a date today. My bad. It's fine. Right, Lena? Yeah, it's fine. Unable to deny it, I pretended not to mind. Since that day, Carly began to appear more frequently wherever Osamand and I went out together. I thought it was a coincidence the first 2 times, but after it kept happening, I couldn't help but think they were arranging it behind my back. Whenever they met, they acted as if it were a chance encounter. Wow! What a coincidence. That became their routine phrase. Once, I gathered the courage to ask, are you two in touch? Seeing each other so often when we're out, it seems unlikely to be just coincidence. However, they wouldn't admit it. No, it's just a coincidence. Right, Carly? Yeah. Just a coincidence. Happened to be, right? They laughed it off together. But their expressions seemed almost mocking. They would hold hands or touch each other's cheeks every time they met. Their level of physical affection seemed excessive. Despite being told they had always been this way, claiming it was normal for childhood friends, something about it didn't sit right with me. Wait, should we stop holding hands? Lena looks mad. Sorry, Lena. But Carly is really just an old friend. There's absolutely nothing weird between us, so don't worry, okay? Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Well, it's not like I like you or anything. After Carly's comment, Osamand cheerfully placed his hand on her head again. Despite my anger, Osamand continued his physical affection with Carly. Carly didn't seem to mind at all. Is it normal for childhood friends to be this close? Watching Osamand and Carly, my distrust grew day by day. After several similar incidents, I mustered up the courage to speak to Osamand. Osamand. What's up? Osamand looked at me with his usual kind smile. About Carly. I know she's your childhood friend, and I understand you're close, but could you maybe reduce the physical affection a bit? Reduce it! Yeah, since we're married. Osamand's face turned serious for a moment before he relaxed again. That brief serious expression scared me, making me regret bringing it up. Sorry. Was it bothering you? A little. Normally, Osamand would laugh it off and agree. But he was different that day. But you know, Carly and I are just childhood friends, right? There's really nothing to worry about. What does that mean? Just don't think too much about it. Consider it part of our communication. Okay. With a troubled smile, he walked away from me. Seeing this, I couldn't help but feel anxious, regretting my question and wondering if I had made an unreasonable request or upset Osamand. At the same time, I questioned if I was wrong. As his wife, I wanted him to limit his physical contact with Carly, even though they were childhood friends. Nonetheless, life with Osamand continued uneasily. A month after my request, nothing had changed. In fact, it seemed to get worse. Carly started to intrude on our home. She would come over on weekdays and weekends, eat, and then leave, with me preparing everything. Carly would just show up suddenly, spending time talking to Osamand on the sofa. Even when I asked for help with carrying things. "You can handle that much on your own, right?" "Yeah." She would dismiss my request. By this time, Osamand had completely taken Carly's side. He hardly listened to me and always spoke in Carly's favor when I objected. Seriously. Lena can't do anything by herself. "Hey, don't say that in front of her, that's the worst." They laughed at me as if I were a joke. Naturally, I didn't feel good about it. Whenever I returned to the kitchen without saying anything, I would end up being criticized. Is she sulking? Over just this? Come on, that's a bit much, isn't it? I continued preparing the meal, trying to ignore their voices. It seemed only fair that she help with preparations since she came over uninvited. Yet, why should I be the one to face complaints? Moreover, being accused of sulking or being incapable of doing anything alone was incredibly rude. Carly came over several times a week. And she always made sure to have a meal before leaving. Even during meals, there was no sense of calm. Carly would sit next to Osamand, constantly pestering him. Osamand seemed to not mind her actions. They would feed each other or share laughs, looking entirely like a couple to anyone observing. But it turns out Carly actually had a fiancé named Raymond. He worked at the same company as Carly, holding a rather prestigious position. Though I heard he was abroad currently. Still, I thought it inappropriate for someone engaged to engage in such excessive physical intimacy with their childhood friend. "Carly, could you maybe stop coming over so often? The food costs are adding up, and it's more work to cook." However, Osamand just laughed off my request. "Come on. Carly's single right now, and she says it's lonely going home to an empty house. Maybe we should be a bit more understanding." But it's fine, really. Osamand didn't seem inclined to criticize Carly at all. In fact, he seemed happier with her than with me. I wondered why Osamand couldn't show me the same smile. Eventually, I began to despise not only Carly but also the sight of Osamand smiling at her. A year into our marriage, Carly's intrusions continued unabated. By this time, I had given up, no longer complaining and simply catering to Carly. Maybe this was the arrangement Osamand and Carly desired. Their physical intimacy intensified, and they appeared even happier than before. I dreaded that this lifestyle would persist until Carly got married. The thought filled me with gloom. Divorce. The word started to cross my mind occasionally. Yet, I found it hard to take any action. Time kept moving forward. But one day, a comment from Carly prompted me to decide on divorce. "Hey, aren't you two planning to have kids?" "What?" Her tactless remark made me exclaim in surprise. Osamand and I had decided not to have children yet. And we might never do so. That's what I thought I had said, but Lena's just really against it. What? I never said that. I hadn't said anything of the sort. Osamand was trying to look good in front of Carly. I glared and contradicted him. Really, Lena? It's been about a year since you got married, right? Why would you be against it? No, I never said I was against. But Carly wasn't listening at all. Didn't Osamand like kids? Lena, isn't it selfish to say no? I'm not being selfish. I never said that. It's a real concern. Osamand continued to take Carly's side, even in this situation, choosing his childhood friend over his wife. It made me realize for the first time that perhaps I couldn't continue going on with him. Then Carly said something outrageous, pushing me further. If you don't want kids, maybe I'll have them. Maybe I should just divorce and we have them. Osamand joined in with her laughter, not rebuking Carly's words. The casual mention of divorce shocked me, my heart raced, and I stopped what I was doing. Divorce. There are jokes that can be made and ones that shouldn't be. The inability to distinguish between the two was exasperating. However, I quickly faced them again. All right, we're getting a divorce, then. Huh? They were surprised, even though they brought it up. I quickly corrected the notion of divorce. Just kidding. Maybe it's time we started thinking about kids. Right, of course. You're obviously joking. Osamand laughed, relieved, while Carly covered her mouth beside him, smiling joyously. Such a happy occasion. But the truth was, I did want a divorce. Despite joking about it, I couldn't shake the thought. I'll really get a divorce. Annoyingly, Carly's remark made me decide to divorce Osamand. Yet, it was too early to act. Yeah, just kidding. While formulating a plan in my head, I responded to Osamand. From observing Osamand and Carly up close, I suspected they might be having an affair. If that was the case, my options were limited. After much thought, I decided to hire a detective to gather evidence of the affair. I also tried to sneak a peek at Osamand's mobile phone to gather evidence myself. If they weren't cheating, I'd think of something else. But there was no need. When I checked Osamand's unlocked phone, there was an abundance of exchanges with Carly. The content was damning. From sweet conversations akin to those of lovers to suggestive messages and photos from hotel visits. There was more than enough to call it evidence. Considering Osamand didn't lock his phone, he seemed utterly careless. Further investigation by the detective confirmed they met frequently, mostly at hotels. The dates they met matched the days Osamand told me he'd be home late. He had lied about overtime and drinking parties to meet Carly. Even though I had a vague idea they were cheating, seeing concrete evidence made me feel indescribable. Meanwhile, Osamand and Carly's behavior didn't change. Carly kept coming over, eating, teasing me, and having fun. Unaware of what I was doing behind the scenes, their carefree actions seemed almost ludicrous. About a month after I started gathering evidence, Osamand invited me to an event. There's an engagement party for Carly next month. Engagement party? Yeah, you know Carly's fiancé is pretty high up, right? So, they need to have a sort of introduction party for the marriage. So, her partner is coming back? Yeah, I think he might already be back. The engagement party was irrelevant to me. The nerve of having such a party while engaging in an affair baffled me. I see. You've been invited? You should go, I said dismissively, somewhat irritated by Osamand's nonchalant laughter. But his response was unexpected. What are you talking about? You're coming with me. Me? With you? Why? Because you've always been so helpful to Carly. Oh, I see. She wants me there because I was helpful. Did they really invite me for that reason? My heart, already jaded, doubted even the reason for my invitation. But it would be rude to decline if I was invited. I thought you might not like parties. Can you manage? No, I'll go. She invited me, after all. Osamand's face brightened at my words. Great. I'll let Carly know. He seemed pleased as he went to his room with his phone, likely to contact Carly. In truth, I didn't want to go. The last thing I wanted was to see Carly happy. Why should I put myself in such a situation? However, as I prepared, an idea struck me. This plan could significantly change my current predicament. If so, using the party to my advantage was too good an opportunity to miss. What I'm about to do is low as a person. But I had been tormented by Osamand and Carly far more. A little revenge seemed justified. I prepared for the party and my plan of retaliation simultaneously. A month later, the day of the party arrived. Dressed appropriately, Osamand and I headed to the venue. Entering the venue, the opulence of chandeliers, carpets, and tables made me hesitate. The old Osamand would have reassured me here, but now he was busy scanning the room for someone. The guests all seemed important, making me feel out of place. Then, someone called out, "Ah, Osamand! You made it!" Turning toward the voice, I saw Carly, accompanied by a fresh-faced young man and a kindly-looking elderly couple. Apparently, the young man was Carly's fiancé, Raymond, and the elderly couple were her parents. "Congratulations, Carly!" "Thank you. And to you too, and Raymond too." "Congratulations." "Thank you for your kind words." Osamand was unusually polite. A side of him I might have never seen before. Afterward, the party officially began with an announcement. After getting my meal, I returned to my seat to find Osamand and Carly's parents engaged in a lively conversation. "Osamand, you and Carly are childhood friends, right? What was she like back then?" "Carly back then? Hey, that's kind of embarrassing." Osamand, unfazed by Carly's embarrassment, shared stories of her past. "She liked catching bugs and racing. We used to play tag a lot." "You're really going to tell that story?" Carly squirmed, visibly embarrassed, but not entirely displeased. "You two really are close. Watching you, it's like you're real siblings." I knew it was impolite, but I couldn't let myself be swept along if I wanted to execute my plan. I apologized internally as I interjected. Osamand seemed surprised by my interruption, eyes wide. "Really? What's it like when Carly is with Osamand?" "They're very close. How should I put it? They're like lovers." "Hey, Lena!" Osamand tried to stop me, but I continued. "Carly often comes over for meals. She talks with Osamand the whole time I'm preparing food, looking very happy. During meals, they feed each other, hold hands. They're really close." "Hey, what are you?" I could feel the atmosphere freeze with my words. Carly's parents and Raymond looked at Osamand and Carly as if they couldn't believe what they were hearing. "Feed each other?" "Yes." "Oh, I don't have photos of them feeding each other, but I do have pictures of them looking very close and their exchanges. Would you like to see?" "Hey, Lena!" Before Osamand could stop me, I opened my mobile phone to show the evidence gathered by the detective and myself. Raymond's face paled significantly upon seeing it. "Lena, don't say weird things." "Weird? I'm just sharing the truth. This is how you two usually are." Osamand bit his lip, unable to say anything, his expression sour. But Carly lashed out at me. I felt vindicated. I had never seen Osamand and Carly look so frustrated. Deciding to go through with my revenge felt right. "Lena, stop being freaky. And why do you have these photos? You shouldn't know about this. What, did you hire a detective? Unbelievable." "Yes, I hired a detective." "Why?" Osamand was taken aback, realizing his actions with Carly, which went beyond mere childhood friendship, had been exposed. Want to know why? I pulled out a completed divorce application from my bag and slammed it in front of Osamand. Let's get divorced. I can't take it anymore. There's no need to say that here. Ever since we got married, Carly has been a constant presence in my life. We ran into her whenever we went out, and despite asking you to keep distance, she came over for dinner multiple times. And to top it off, you lied about working late to meet her at hotels. What's the point of being married then? I let it all out. Osamand's loud response had drawn the attention of everyone in the venue. I know it was wrong, but... If you knew it was wrong, why didn't you stop? Didn't I ask you to stop repeatedly? Well, yes, but... You don't really think it was wrong, do you? If you did, you wouldn't make excuses, you'd apologize. Yeah, sorry. As Osamand and I argued, Carly attempted to intervene. Hey, stop arguing here. Raymond, Mom, Dad, help. However, the three of them did not take Carly's side. Carly, those photos are real, aren't they? What? I'm asking if they're real. Not that you'd admit to cheating on your own. Raymond looked profoundly disheartened. Understandably so. He must have been thinking of his fiancée Carly while working abroad, only to find her cheating with her childhood friend. With so much evidence, I can't marry you. I was a fool to trust you. Wait. That's not true. They're all lies. Lies? So, you're saying Lena fabricated all this just to trap you and Osamand? Yes, that's right. What? I couldn't hold back anymore. Was she not satisfied after manipulating me all this much? Still trying to control the narrative? Even now, Carly wouldn't admit to the affair, which infuriated me further, and I couldn't help but shout. Who would do such a thing for you? I don't have the time for that. If I were to spend my time on you, I'd rather find a new hobby. What did you say? Carly snapped back at my words. However, it was Carly's parents who stopped her. Carly! Enough! Aren't you ashamed of yourself for doing such things? Dad. I never thought you would do something like this. Sure, you and Osamand were close, but I never imagined it would lead to this. It's truly shameful. What? Don't say it's shameful. It is embarrassing. Raymond, I'm so sorry. It's understandable that you can't marry her now, and we won't mind if you call off the engagement. I too must apologize. I'm truly sorry. Watching her parents apologize to Raymond, Carly seemed to realize the irreparable mistake she had made. Tears streaming, she pleaded with Raymond. I'm sorry. Please, don't call off the engagement. I've had enough of you. I can't marry you. No. Osamand, witnessing Carly's situation, also begged for my forgiveness. Lena, I'm really sorry. I'll never cheat again. Please, let's not divorce. But I couldn't possibly trust Osamand's words. Never cheat again? Unbelievable. I'm divorcing you. And I'll be claiming compensation too. Looks like your beloved Carly is getting dumped too, so you two might as well stay together. No, wait, think this over. Absolutely not. I can't live with someone like you any longer. I grabbed the divorce papers again and pushed them toward Osamand. There's no way we can rebuild from this. If you understand, agree to the divorce now. Realizing I was serious, Osamand no longer resisted and agreed to the divorce. Finally, I could get away from this man. And I wouldn't have to see Carly's face anymore. This realization brought a smile to my face. A few days later, Osamand and I were officially divorced. I managed to claim compensation from both Osamand and Carly, which was satisfying. Carly and Raymond officially ended their engagement too. Despite the scandal, neither Osamand nor Carly quit their jobs. I thought they might leave their positions due to the divorce and scandal spreading through their companies. However, it seems they couldn't afford to quit, needing to pay the compensation. In a way, that served them right. Thinking so might mean I have a bad personality too. After the divorce was finalized, I apologized to Raymond for ruining the party. But he kindly said, "No worries. Thank you for letting me know about Carly's affair. It was a big help." A year after divorcing Osamand, I'm living comfortably alone, working a new job in a new city. I'm not sure what Osamand and Carly are up to, but the compensation is being deposited monthly, so they must be managing somehow. It seems I'm better off living alone than with someone. I probably won't marry again. I cherish these happy days and plan to continue enjoying my favorite tea alone.